Okay, now, before we talk about the winners, I'm going to preface this by saying we don't know Jack. I don't know, because I don't know Jack from... We have to be within a minute. AdSense is new to me, so I remember that I can't swear within the first minute. But I don't know Jack from you-know-what, because we really won't know what is going to come of all these moves in the offseason until the actual season starts. But we can look on things and have little hypotheticals in our head. We use our imagination. That's 95% of what I do on this platform is. So yeah, we're going to talk about free agency winners. And if you guys like this and you guys want to talk about losers, then we can do that too. But I feel like if I did this a winners and a losers, either I wouldn't be able to give individual winners and losers enough time, or this video would end up being way too freaking long and I wouldn't know what to do with it. Also, sorry if the coloring looks a little bit weird. I am experimenting with a new film style, it's called S-Log if you guys know anything about film. And so I'm just, filming a different way. So if it looks a little weird, sorry about that. But I wanted to get this video out before the draft because I think I'll also probably talk just overall offseason winners. But the free agency period itself, though it was somewhat lackluster, yes, it was. You can admit it. It's fine. It's fine. There weren't that many big names. There was one big trade and two big names, and those were like T. Higgins and Sam Darnold. And those were our big names of free agency this year. So it's kind of okay to say, I guess technically there was the other signing of Cooper Kupp, but he wasn't like a free agent going in, but you understand what I mean. So it was kind of lackluster going into it. It felt like there wasn't going to be anything really big. So I still want to touch on it though, because I feel like enough people aren't really talking about the free agency moves that happened. I have 4.5 winners in this year so far. And again, the reason I'm doing this before the draft is because the draft is going to completely change teams as well. I think the draft also really shows us, again, we can speculate and assume what teams' plans are in the future, but when you see what their moves are in the draft, especially, that's how you know how they're probably going to approach the upcoming season. And so we don't know that yet with the draft. And like I said, I'll also probably talk about the offseason overall winners and losers, because there also is still a good amount of free agents out there that haven't signed yet. Aaron Rodgers. Put me out of my misery. Okay, if I do the loser video, I'm number one because he is officially living in my head rent free, but he's not a winner. So we're not going to talk about him in today's video. So let's actually, before I put myself on too much of a tangent, let's talk about my winners. First one, these two are kind of tied together. I have the Seattle Seahawks and Sam Darnold. I'm going to talk about Sam Darnold first, probably because it's a little bit quicker. Sam Darnold, in my opinion, should have stayed with the Vikings. If I was him, that's the decision I would have made, because you get another year of consistency. And also, if they're extending you for at least a year, or they're franchise tagging you, or whatever they could have done, then you know that you have not sole control because you have J.J. McCarthy behind you, but you just led the team to the playoffs. And yeah, you lost in the playoffs, but you were essentially a forgotten about player, and then you came back and was like, see, I can do this just with good coaching. And that I have been high on Sam Darnold since he was drafted. I thought he was, and I could be wrong. Listen, I could be wrong. I thought he was the best quarterback prospect from that draft class. Same draft class that had Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield and Josh Rosen. But I think him going to the Jets, the second he got drafted to the Jets, I was like, this isn't going to work. His coaching situation is absolutely dog shit, and they didn't set him up for success, and it's just a poorly run organization. And then he went to Carolina, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, let's just set him to the Jets of the East, just without the reputation and the market. And then when he went to San Francisco, I was like, hey, if Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, and then at a point, Brock Purdy, get hurt, this is going to be the resurgence, baby. And then he's there for a year and he pops off in Minnesota like he did last year. It was really nice because I got so much shit for giving that man so much support. But, going back to him being in Minnesota and not me being right. But the reason I thought I should say Minnesota, you get consistency, you have great weapons, and We'll talk about Minnesota in a little bit, but like they're also one of my big winners. Now, I don't think they could have done some of these moves if they had extended or franchise tagged Sam Darnold, but I still think it would have been the smart thing to do. But I think out of all, because I made a skit about a month and a half ago, and I basically said, like, you can go to Minnesota for success, or you can go to the Raiders for financial compensation. And I was really worried he was going to go to the Raiders. And honestly, out of the locations Sam could have gone, the Seahawks actually isn't a bad one. Even though they traded away DK, and I know their offensive line, we're going to talk about the Seahawks here in a second. I still think it's a good location for Sam to land in. I think he has a higher upside and just a better quarterback overall than Geno Smith is, especially at this point in his career. He's also a little bit cheaper than Geno was with this recent extension, and he's younger, so if you get more time with him if it does work out. And I like that. And for Sam's sake, he has a good running back. He has 2 good wide receivers right now, and I think a coaching staff that's really trying to establish himself. Now, that's the most I can say about Sam without talking about the Seahawks. Now we're going to tie the Seahawks into this. Offensive line aside, I mean, there weren't too many big there were 3 big names, but you know what I mean? Like, they brought in Sam, they brought in Cooper Kupp, and they brought in Tank Lawrence. 3 significant upgrades for their team. I also think the biggest thing that makes them a winner is their division. The Niners might make it into my losers video. The Falcons, the Cardinals didn't do anything, and the Rams actually did have a pretty good offseason. But I think it's fair to look at that division right now and say it's between the Seahawks and the Rams. And the Seahawks have a pretty good chance and a pretty good argument as to why they can win that division. But, a lot of people also, it's funny, anytime a big move happens, I like to go to a fan base and see how they're reacting to it. So when they brought in Cooper Kupp, I was curious because I saw everywhere on the spectrum from, oh, this dude's washed, why would they bring them in? This is a clearly waste of money, a waste of player time and, cap. And then I also saw this is a phenomenal move, good for them. So I went in to see what Seattle Seahawks fans were saying about it, and it wasn't split. It was actually pretty just hey, you know what? It is what it is. Was it a 2 or 3 year contract? I can't remember. And it's if he tails off, he tails off. But we essentially got him for cheaper than DK Metcalf was going to cost after the extension he got when he got traded. And he also got a 2nd round pick in the offseason for DK Metcalf as well. So it's honestly, what Seattle did, I kind of understand. I mean, JSN is a really good slot guy the way they used him last year, but he also in college was a deep threat. Now, he's not a big body deep threat like DK was or like an AJ Brown kind of is, but he is a deep threat because of his route running ability and tied with his speed as well. So now if you can now move him outside and you bring in Cooper Kupp, who's the perfect guy that you can have underneath, now you're giving Sam 2 really good options. I would say 2 arguably elite options, one at the deep end of the field and one at the intermediate and short end of the field with Cooper Kupp. And, if they want to draft a wide receiver, they could too, but I think they'll probably go O-line for the most part. They have one good tackle, in my opinion, and one good guard, and they should go after another. I think tackle is probably going to be their highest priority there. And then, I haven't really talked about Tank Lawrence, but I think it's just a good overall solid upgrade for the defensive line. Ever since they had the trade at the Giants two seasons ago, their defense, has gotten better, but and also they have a respectable secondary that will never really get talked about. But their D line and their linebackers, I do feel they're gonna take a next step next season. I don't know a lot about Seattle football. I don't watch a lot of Seattle football, but one of my friends, Wyatt, shout out Big Z. He talks about them all the time, and he seems pretty confident going into this next season, and I am too. I was kind of questioning the Sam Darnold thing at first because I admit, even though I've been pushing for him for so long, I didn't want him on my Steelers because the Steelers would have been a shit situation for him to land on. And that's me saying that as a Sam Darnold fan, not as a Steelers fan. I mean, as a Steelers fan too. But as a Sam Darnold fan, he wouldn't have succeeded. I think going to Seattle, that's one of the few spots that was available or an option for him that he would have succeeded in. And I think the more I sleep on it, the more I actually really do like it. Those are the first two. Next one, I already hinted at a little bit. The Minnesota Vikings had a really good offseason. These are the four big names that everyone knows about it. But center Ryan Kelly, corner, they re-signed Byron Murphy, and then bringing in Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen. That's a great defensive front. I don't know what scheme they're on defense, but if they're going to be switching to like a 4-3 right now, because now you have two like just absolute tanks and units in Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave at D tackle. So I can't imagine they're going to be running a 3-4 or even like a nickel, base defense. So if I had to imagine, I don't know anything about what their scheme that they currently use right now, but it seems like they're probably going to use a 4-3, which is good because they also, I can't remember his name, but they re-signed a linebacker as well and bringing in Byron Murphy. So this is a situation where you're going really heavy on the front seven, which is good. I mean, in my opinion, you want better, like if I had to choose between phenomenal safeties and shit front seven or like a phenomenal front seven shit secondary, I would take a phenomenal front seven because if the quarterback only has 3 seconds to make a decision, then you just need those corners and safeties to not break for 3 seconds. But if that quarterback has a lot of time, even the best of corners and safeties are going to get beat. So I do like the moves they made on defense. And also Ryan Kelly was a very underrated, like I said, there's just going to be a lot of things I'm going to call underrated for the most part because a lot of these names no one was really like highly touting, but he was really good in Indianapolis. I think it's a really good upgrade, especially for JJ McCarthy. And I'm not going to lie, I wasn't high on JJ McCarthy last year when he got drafted that high. I thought it was I thought he skyrocketed because of the national championship. But the more I look at how this team is built, and yeah, they also brought back Aaron Jones for I think a year, but like you've got one for sure elite, top 2-3 wide receivers in Justin Jefferson. Then you have another really good. I mean, if he can continue on like the trajectory he has set for himself, then Jordan Addison is going to be really good. So you have two really good wide receivers. You have phenomenal tight ends. So again, like I was saying with Cooper Kupp and JSN, you're covering, the deep and then the intermediary. Now you have, with the Vikings, you have all phases of the field covered. You have the deep with Justin. I mean, Jordan runs deep as well, but he's I feel like a medium route type of player. And then you have TJ Hawkinson who can take the underneaths, and he also runs under medium routes as well. So I like that. I don't know what they're going to go after in the draft. I don't know too much about their needs. I thought maybe center before free agency started, and then they brought in Ryan Kelly, so I don't know. I have another friend that is a huge Vikings fan. That's Austin. You guys have seen him on the channel before, so I can always get more info from him. But I do really like what the Vikings are doing. Now, it's kind of a shit situation because they're also in arguably the strongest division in the NFL. Like no matter what the Packers do or don't do, they're a competent enough ran organization where they are kind of like the Steelers. They'll be successful enough. Now, the difference is they might be able to actually do things with that success, but like they will always have a consistency of success, whether it be just being above 500 or having a successful season because of the circumstances that, you were dealt, like a quarterback getting hurt or, anything like that. And then you have the Lions, obviously, depending on how losing their offensive and defensive coordinators are, whether, it has a huge impact or not, it's still a really well-built team. And so, the Vikings had all these. I think if the NFC North wasn't so good right now, the Vikings would be like the runaway easily, like they're going to skyrocket up everyone's boards. Like everyone's like, oh, this is going to be a team that's going to be competing for the NFC championship and going to the Super Bowl next year. But because of that division, that's what's kind of holding them back. Speaking of their division, my last winner, I know I said 4.5. We'll kind of talk about the 0.5 in a second. My last winner is also in the NFC North. It's the Chicago Bears. Now, I'm old enough to remember last year when they were also an offseason winner. I'm also old enough to remember the year before that where they were also an offseason winner. So we're going to take this with the smallest grain of salt imaginable here, but their moves were really good. First of all, I really like Ben Johnson as a head coach. I don't know. It's always hard to know when a good coordinator goes to a shit franchise because he chose the Bears. He could have gone anywhere. If I was him, I would have gone to like maybe the Jags, like, because that's a shit division and you have a quarterback that you might be able to revive. Now, similar situation to the Bears. it's the Jaguars. It's kind of like choosing between the Bears and the Panthers, or like the Jaguars and the Jets. Like you're just choosing between but he chose to go there. He took his time with it. He could have been a head coach last season if he wanted to, but he waited. And I really do like the creativity he brings. Now, if he's competent enough to overcome the Bears' dysfunction just within that organization, then the Bears are going to have a winning record. That's just the reality of the situation. And if Caleb Williams, who people, myself included, didn't give him enough respect for last season, it got overshadowed by Jaden Daniels, obviously, but also the start to the season left a bad taste in people's mouths to the point where no one actually realized how good of a rookie season he had. And we've been spoiled by rookie seasons like a Jaden Daniels, like a CJ Stroud the year before, or like Justin Herbert in 2020, because if quarterbacks aren't consistently doing things that are record breaking or they're just on a constant highlight reel, then it doesn't really do anything. And I think also another thing, obviously it doesn't help is when you're not winning, but a lot of those losses, now I'm not saying Caleb looked phenomenal in every single game. I'm just saying it was evident that he got better as the season progressed. And if there's, with a lot of also just dysfunction and instability, whether it's firing your head coach, and also didn't they fire their OC midway through the season too? That is one thing. If Shane Waldron who was the OC, okay, I could be completely wrong here, but I please tell me I'm right. Shane Waldron was the OC for the Bears. He got fired midseason, and then did he just get brought to it was Jacksonville, right? It wasn't Seattle. If it was Seattle, rip Sam Darnold, but I think it was Jacksonville, which I think was to be the quarterback's coach in Jacksonville, which row. Oof, but I don't know. But, with Caleb, he lost his coordinator and his head coach. There was no consistency there. And literally the turning point in that season was when they lost to Washington off of the Hail Mary. Everything just kind of spiraled from there. But from what I've seen and the press conferences and everything from Ben Johnson, now he looks worn down already, but I think he's a competent leader for this team. And I've only talked about one of the upgrades so far, that being Ben Johnson. The other two more that they've done, they upgraded the offensive line, acquiring Joe Thuney. Is it Thuney or Tooney? They acquired Joe, and they also got Jonah Jackson. Two really, really good. Joe they're both could be called Joe because Jonah, I guess you could call Joe. Is Joe short? Could you call someone Jonah Joe for short? Okay. Anyways, Joe T is a little bit older, but it was a 1-year deal, I'm pretty sure. So cool. We're putting a Band-Aid over this, hoping to get a tackle in next year's draft, is what I assume it. Tackle or guard? He's a guard. Joe's a guard. And then getting Jonah Jackson, another really good upgrade. Funny that it happened within division as well. He used to be with the Lions. And then another one that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, but getting Grady Jarrett for that defensive line. It's not I'm not saying Grady's going to be in the defensive player of the year candidate or that he's going to single-handedly change this defense, but I think he's a vet who can help that defense. And that defense has a lot of good players on it. Last season, I genuinely don't understand how last season went the way it did. But I think the Bears had a really good offseason as well. It's just hard. You have to really temper expectations with it because it's a poorly run franchise. Anytime the Jets have a really good offseason, like they did a couple seasons ago with Aaron Rodgers and everything, you got to temper the expectations because just of who's running the franchise. So, I'd like to see the Bears be good. I think it's fun when teams that aren't good or haven't historically been good are good. When the Jaguars were good for the 2 seasons with Saxonville and everything, it was kind of fun to watch and root for it. Obviously they kicked the shit out of my Steelers, but that's more on Steelers ineptitude than Jacksonville success. But it was fun to watch that. And even though I'm a Steelers fan, and this might sound sacrilegious to some Steelers fans that watch my videos, it was kind of fun to root for the Browns in certain times because you just felt bad for them. Now, when they got kind of arrogant and assholey about things, didn't want to root for them as much. But sometimes it's just nice to see those lesser teams have success, and I think that's the case with the Bears. I'd like to see them have success, and I also really did like watching Caleb Williams in college, and I think if he can translate to the NFL, it's just going to make the product better, whether you like him or not. I think his success is good for the league, especially for the league's future. Speaking of the league's success and the league's future, my 4.5, my half winner for the free agency so far is the players. Player contracts are nuts. Like nuts. You could be a star player. You could be a veteran. You could, because I mean, Danielle Hunter just got what, like a 1 year, $35 million deal. Joey Bosa got an expensive deal. Cooper Kupp got some good money after being older and getting injured consistently. And you know, wide receivers are getting paid. The wide receiver market is about to explode. Once Jamar Chase gets paid, it is going to be insane. And my phone has been going off, and I'm like, is it an extension? I doubt it. There's no way. I'm sure it's actually nothing related to the NFL. Well, it says Steelers not rushing Rodgers. So thanks for bringing that back into my life. I'd forgotten about that for a good 30 seconds. But no, the players and their contracts, their bank accounts are the other winners of this free agency. So I just thought that was like worth mentioning, but I wasn't going to deep dive into it. So that's why I was like 4.5, I guess. I'm curious what you guys think, whether you agree, disagree. I like to hear all the new opinions and everything. Also, we're so close to 50K on YouTube. I appreciate all the love. We're also really close to 50K on Instagram, and we're like 200 followers away from 100K on TikTok, which is, those aren't real words. That's not, no way, right? Like this time last year, I had like 6,000 followers on TikTok, I think. So you guys have been absolutely amazing and legitimately life-changing. And it's fun to make these like videos, and I really enjoy them. I know they've kind of slowed down a little bit. I've been living my life a little more than usual, which has been nice. Like, I also feel kind of guilty though, because I'm not getting you guys videos every single day. So I'm trying to get you guys videos every single day. So hopefully, close we get to draft season and everything. Also with like the NBA playoffs coming in, I'm hoping to do more and more videos. But I really do. I'm just so appreciative for all the love and support you guys have been giving me and all the videos. And I want to get as more creative as possible. Even though some of the more creative stuff doesn't do as well, I have the most fun when I'm making those. So I hope that you guys, I hope that shows as well, that the effort is, that the joy I have creating it reflects in the final product. So I'm gonna stop talking though, so you guys can write your comments. I'm really curious. I'm gonna read through them all. I love, hearing ball from everybody, because it especially when people are talking about their own specific teams, I like to learn about that, because then also threads get started in the comments, and I like to see how people are kind of communicating civilly, please. We really don't have an issue in our comments, but I just want to put it out there. Just have a conversation. Y'all don't need to lecture each other or prove you're right and why they're wrong. Just have a conversation. But I do like seeing those interactions, because then I get a perspective from other fan bases, and that helps me both as someone who just enjoys the NFL as a product, and also someone who has to doesn't have to, enjoys creating content, sports related and NFL related. So thank you guys so much for watching this. If you guys want to see a losers video, let me know. But other than that, you know how we end these.